representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the hearing, we will conduct our monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and the town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of the decision can sign the sheet on the table by the north doors. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure will be as follows. After each applicant is read, the applicant, their agent or representative will be asked to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the committee's field observations and staff comments. Finally, the application will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties and recorded reflective of these observations. Any person affected by the administrative decision of the committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustments. Information and applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of the 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To our far left is Ruth Zagowski, Corp Counsel, Joe Piaski, Larry Crawford, Fred Gallerup, Terry Pockstead. To my right, zoning administrator, and my name is Mark Kirshner. First application to be heard tonight, Terror Trail, Daryl and Gail Obarski, Wayne Obarski, and William Fritsch, landowners, Mount Morris, Wisconsin, have made application for a conditional use in accordance with sections 58-454, paragraph 27 of the Waushara County Zoning Code to hold a haunted trail event running from mid-September to the end of October in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location: 3 parcels combined, being approximately 11.67 acres in size, known as lots 1 and 2 of the certified survey map number 6107, and a parcel to the east, all being part of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter and part of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter, section 34, town 19 north, range 11 east, town of Mount Morris, fire number W5913 Chicago Avenue. Is the applicant present? Yes. Would you please come forward, please?
Good afternoon.
Can you give us some information on what you plan on doing and stuff?
Your name is?
My name is Wayne Obarski.
Thank you, Wayne.
Information as to how we operate the trail, or what
just
we do?
Give us a basic idea of
What we do is every year we've been started since '03. We have a fundraiser, which is a nonprofit. We are a non-for-profit organization. We are registered with the state of Wisconsin. And we advertise and we have people come through and we scare them. Basically is a summary of what we do. We do have our proceeds all go to people that we vote every year. Our board votes on who's going to receive our proceeds. We're 100% non-for-profit, so everything we take in, we donate out. This year, we are donating our proceeds to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Milwaukee County Children's Burn Center, and the Waushara County Canine Program. So every year, we change that up. Whoever needs it, who we donate to. We also give, we have a food drive night, and all that is donated to the Red Granite Lutheran Church Ronnie Davidson is in charge of that, and she receives those donations and has since, I believe, '04, when we started the food drive.
All right, committee has a few questions. Committee questions, please?
Yeah, how many employees or volunteers do you have on a busy night?
Joe, it varies. There's times that we have, a busy night would be approximately 25 to 35 volunteers. There are no employees, no one is paid.
What sort of traffic does this generate, and do you have adequate parking for that, all those cars?
We do now, this year we purchased land from William Fritsch, and I'm not exactly sure the exact size of our parking area, but we estimate we can hold about 100 to 125 cars in there.
We drove into the driveway west of the house,
Okay.
and the parking is where the bus is?
Yes.
Is there any other parking available?
That can be moved back farther. If you notice the big orange fence,
Right.
it can go farther back. That is our parking area for right now.
Are you allowing any parking on a driveway that goes off to the right a little bit, towards the
No,
pipeline?
that is blocked off.
Okay.
That there, you should have seen, it's two pallets basically screwed together. That is put onto the second drive because that leads back to Mr. Fritsch's property and the pipeline.
Are you planning any advertising signs or directional signs?
Every Friday night, we put up signs on Highway 21 and on Chicago Avenue. They're reflective. They just have an arrow that point which way to go. That's the only signage that goes out, and then there's a sign at the parking where you pull in. We have a vehicle sitting there. One of our security people are there that is has the flashlight and a reflective vest and tells people where to park.
And they're all temporary signs.
Correct.
Do you have any permanent structures or buildings on the site?
None that are permanent, no.
What is the bus used for?
Storage right now. It was a panic bus at one time, but it didn't go over very well. It was filled with spiders and snakes and such.
Are you,
So,
are you aware of the state building codes and any other requirements that you have to
yes,
follow?
we are.
What sort of sanitary facilities do you provide, and are they adequate for what you need? We thought that one enough.
So far, we haven't had any problems. We do rent porta potty from Watoma Rental Center. That service when they normally service it every 2 weeks, or when needed, if we call them, they'll come out. We haven't had a line of people waiting to get into the facility. Most of them either go a while before they get there, or we've had a few people that actually went on the trail, you know, so.
How many people show up on a busy night to go
On a
through it?
busy night so far, our maximum was 168 people.
And you limit the amount of people going in at one time?
Correct. We have, our insurance agency actually has rules on that. They will not allow any more than 6 people to go through in one group.
You sell any food or drinks or
Everything that,
souvenirs or anything like that?
we do have one of these, like this shirt here, Survival of Terror Trail. Our food is all prepackaged. Most of the soda comes out of a vending machine in front. And as far as food, it would be candy bars or chips, and it's all prepackaged.
Are you planning any new driveways?
Not yet.
Or
We would like to,
improvements?
if, I'm in the process of working with Mr. Fritsch on purchasing, I believe it's lot 1 of the leased property that we're leasing from him. And once we do take over ownership of that, the driveway would be a lot wider. There would be a few trees cut down, the drive would be made larger.
The amount of people on a busy night, this is a Friday or Saturday, I would assume, do you have enough security people to cover those nights?
Correct. Our minimum security staff is 10 people. That's on, they have, if I can have Steve stand up for a second. He has one of our security shirts on. They're very noticeable. They all have flashlights. We all have two-way radios, so we have communication if there is a problem with our booth. The booth has phone service.
Has there been a recent survey
Survey
on the land?
yes, that was conducted in August.
And you know where the lot lines are?
Correct.
Do you foresee any expanding into other events or other holidays?
There has been talk of opening up a holiday trail for December. but we're not sure. That's still in the developing stage, and what we want to do there is, I'm not even sure. I don't want to speak for sure because it's too far out. It's not going to happen this year, but we do eventually wish to open a holiday trail so it would run through December.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Fred, Larry, any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Correspondence?
We received one letter on October 14th. Says, "To whom it may concern, Mr. Wayne Obarski requested that I write to you in regards to the Terror Trail that they operate at W5893 Chicago Avenue, Watoma, Wisconsin. We lived at W5892 Chicago Avenue, Watoma, Wisconsin for over 5 years. We have no complaints in regard to their operation of the Terror Trail during that time. However, we want you to know that our house at that address is now for sale, and I'm not sure if that has any bearing on your inquiry of the neighbors in that area." And that's signed Walter and Marianne Bussey.
What was the
That-
last name?
Bussey, B-U-S-S-E. E. And that's all the correspondence, and no one registered to speak, either in favor or opposition.
Staff comments?
For the record, the committee has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this application that they are considering tonight. It's a conditional use application, and that means it's one where it may be allowed, provided that conditions placed on the application, that if they're followed, they will help it fit in with the surrounding land uses. When the committee visited the property, they noted that there is an address number assigned already. There appears to be adequate room for parking, and that no parking should be allowed on the town road. A porta potty was present, and if the vegetation is kept clear, there is good visibility onto the town road. My comments are, we've been aware of this for a while. You know, we knew it started out, and you never quite know how they're going to go, so you want to give them some time to see if it takes off. Obviously, this has been a successful venture, and when they came in for the fire number, that's when we decided it was time to get all the permits in place. The committee needs to look at all the same things that they would with any other business, even though this isn't necessarily a business, and try to ensure that this is a good fit with the surrounding properties. It's certainly obvious that this provides a benefit to those groups that receive the proceeds, and the event provides a recreational outlet for area youth and adults that is not offered anywhere else nearby. The operation has a good track record. I have not heard anything. We did notify the Sheriff's Department, and we did not hear anything about any problems there. And so that's it for my comments.
Okay. Is there anything the applicant would like to add or anything?
There is one other thing I'd like to put out there for the record. Mr. Fritsch, the letter that went out to all the neighbors, it has him listed as part of the trail. He has no involvement with Terra Trail. He's not on the board, he's not on the council or the advisory committee. All we are doing is leasing his land, and I want to say it's Lot 1. So he's really not involved, but I know that was on the letter, so if we can get that changed for the record, I would like to not have his name associated with the trail. And
But he is a landowner, so we always
Correct.
list all the landowners.
Oh, okay.
That was, he's listed as the landowner, not as part of the Terra Trail.
Okay. I took it that he was involved with
No.
it.
No. Okay,
I think that's all I have.
okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the Planning and Zoning Committee's applications for tonight. We'll be conducting our business meeting in the room next door. The Board of Adjustments will be meeting here next. The applicant can go along with us if you want. Right here, yep.
You can all come in there.
Oh, one more. Move down one more. George, you're out.
This one is the one that's taken. I will call this meeting with Washera County Board of Adjustments to order. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Please remember to keep your comments brief and relative to the matter at hand. We ask a 5-minute time limit, please. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator. The committee has looked at all the properties and the record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct their monthly meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Washera County Circuit Court. Information on the appeals is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. I'll introduce the rest of the committee. To my left are Larry Tim, Kevin Fitzgerald, John Benz, George Wilson, Ruth Zowski, Corp Counsel is on the end. My name is Roger Wagner. The second variance that we have tonight, Gary and Leanne Weisbrucker, Wapaka, Wisconsin, has been requested to table until December. So if there's anyone here for that, it will be heard at the December meeting. First variance to be considered, Timothy and Sandra Lockwood, St. Francis, Wisconsin, and made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-826, paragraph B of the Washera County Zoning Code to relocate an existing 24 by 24 detached garage, additional 10 by 24 slab to be poured coming to within 56 feet of the center line of Milky Way Road, 63-foot setback required in the RS-20 single-family residential zone within the shoreline area. Location, a parcel of land known as Lot 32 of unrecorded plat of Widder Peaceful Nook subdivision, being part of the northwest one quarter, the southwest one quarter. Section 15, Town of Dakota, Widders Lake, W8481 Milky Way Road. Is the applicant present? Would you come forward, please? And state your name for the record, please.
Tim Lockwood, my wife Sandy.
Okay. Who's the spokesman?
I'll try.
Okay. Anything specific you need to tell us or why you're requesting the variance?
Just in order to make things right, we received some bad information before we built the garage. It turned out to be not where it was supposed to be, and so we're trying to make things right. And I guess we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I've got a few general questions for the record for you then. Has there been a recent survey out there?
There was, within the last year, by a neighbor.
Okay.
Actually, both neighbors, I guess, right?
No, I think just one.
Just one neighbor?
Okay.
the neighbor to the west of us, and that's how we found out that we weren't in compliance with the setbacks.
Are you sure the road right-of-way in that area? Are you sure of the road right-of-way location and to your lot?
Yes.
Okay. And have you talked to the township about this?
We just put our application in
Okay.
to Rick.
You didn't contact the town chairman?
No,
They always give you a sheet of paper with his name and number on it?
Bob Bat?
Yep.
No, we tried several
We tried
times.
several times, but he never returned our call.
Okay.
How do you plan on dealing with stormwater runoff from the garage?
It's not an issue at this time.
Okay.
No, never been an issue.
And what type of foundation will the garage have?
Cement, concrete.
Poured concrete slab? You're not going to do any filling or grading to raise it up or divert water onto a neighbor or anything like
No,
that?
no, no, no. In fact, it might be just the opposite.
Okay. And about what will the finished height of the garage be?
Whatever it is now,
Whatever
I
it is now, I
can't,
don't know what.
there will be no change.
Single story?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Any other improvements planned at this time? Okay, all other setbacks will be met?
Correct.
And the septic system is where on that lot?
It's toward the back of the lot. It's intact.
Okay,
No problems.
no problem. Plenty of room for parking and enough room for turnarounds, so you're not backing out into the road?
Correct.
I guess, any other committee questions? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any correspondence?
Yes, we have a letter, well, several letters that the Lockwoods wrote and then people signed. So I'll read that and then all the signatures. It's dated September 19th. Dear friends and neighbors, the reason for this letter is to inform you that Tim and I have applied for a variance on our property located at W8481 Milky Way Road. We recently received notice from the Waushara County Zoning Department that our garage is not within the allowed setback of 7 1/2 feet on the west lot line. In order for us to comply, we will move our garage to the east. But in doing that, we will not be meeting the required 63 feet from the center line of the road to the north that is requirement, hence causing a variance of 8 feet. Please sign this letter and return it to us by October 1st, 2011 if you do not have any issue with this variance request. If you have any questions, we would be happy to talk to you. We can be reached and they list their phone number. A stamped addressed envelope is enclosed for your convenience. Thank you, signed Tim and Sandy Lockwood. And the first signature is Kathleen M. Jones. The next one is John C. Spangler, I think, Spangler. Hope that's right. And he wrote, we have no objections. The next one is Pam Rabine, Rehbein. Again, I'm guessing, but I think I'm pretty close. The next one is Joyce Griepentrog, Griepentrog. The next one is Mark and Karen Schweiger, Schweiger. The next one is Bruce Spickler, Spickler. The next is Judy Burton, Burton. The next is Gary and Deanne Paulson, Paulsen. The next is Delbert Heaton, Heaton. Got any ideas on that one? The next is Brian or Bruce somebody, W8480 Milky Way. His additional note is, it's the one you turned in tonight. Yeah, what's his last name? Okay. I just have no idea what it says. Please screen with trees and other appropriate landscaping, thanks. And the last one is Thomas M. Waller, W-A-L-L-E-R. And he added, just wondering whether this zoning attention after many years was in response to any complaints by a neighbor. I burned leaves and had a deputy arrive to see my permit, which I had. And that's it for correspondence.
Okay, and do we have anyone registered?
Yep, we have one registered.
Herb Melky?
I'm Herb Milky. My address is W8473 Milky Way Road, east of Blockwoods. I guess I'm probably the culprit for all of this, what's going on. I bought my property in '76. Most of the neighbors that were mentioned today wanted to buy my property, and I didn't buy it to sell it to anybody because they were mad because I wouldn't sell it to them. My point is, you only have so much land to build on. Build your property on accordingly. Everybody else is doing that. Why should anybody get fair treatment? You guys in zoning are doing a great job, because it's getting back to me. You are really making a lot of people angry because you won't let them do whatever they want. It's not right, but you're stopping it from letting them build stuff that's not correct. It's going to fall apart or hurt somebody else. And so you guys are doing a great job on your zoning. Tim and Sandy are great neighbors. The first year they moved up or bought their cottage, I had trauma surgery on my legs. They cut my grass all summer long. Tim has no place to hunt at all. I took him around to public hunting grounds and stuff, and I gave him my cell phone number and told him if he gets a deer, I'd help him get it out of the woods. But it hasn't been brought up there like 4 feet over the lot line, and that's quite a bit to be over. And if you got your survey stakes, how can you make a mistake like that? But that's beside the point. My point is that everybody should have the same opportunity to follow the guidelines. If they're not sure where a lot line is, get it surveyed. When they were told that they're on their own property, they never made an attempt to justify it with the neighbor or anything. He was bending backwards to sell them the land or buy their land and buy his land for they wouldn't be no money out, but they refused to negotiate. My thing is with this moving that garage and stuff, if they do, you guys say it's okay to move the garage, make sure they take all their debris off in there, the right-of-way and stuff, that it belongs to somebody else's property for the other owners don't have problems with the concrete and everything else. My problem is it's too short a span from the garage to their turnaround, and that's my lot line. I had problems with the previous owners thinking my land was their personal driveways. One of the people, I don't remember his name now, put a big, huge City Milwaukee spotlight on the Adams Electric telephone pole that shined in my house. And I don't know who turned the guy in, but Adams Electric had him take it down. And then one of the other neighbors was cutting my trees for firewood. Well, it's my land. Nobody ever asked me about that. My concern is there's not enough room to turn around on that small piece of property. They built too big a garage for that size lot, and it's too small to put their toys in there. They got a pretty good sized boat, and they have to back it in sideways to get it in their garage. They should have asked the neighbor, which I told them from day one, asked the neighbor to buy some of their land to put a nice sized garage up if you're going to do that. But they never did that. If you guys decide to let them move the garage ahead a little bit, make sure there's a timeline that they're not going to shove it off for 20 years. And whatever's done, that the new owners aren't getting stuck with a bad job. I was informed that I'm the one that started all this. I turned them in for not being on the right property. I've never done anything like that at all to anybody. It's their mistake. They made the mistake. Let them clear it up. But this is just my opinion that it should be done right. Don't give them special favors now because they made a mistake and they got caught. The biggest thing is they got caught. Whose fault is that but their own? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No one else registered, staff comments?
For the record, the board has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this and all the other applications they will be considering tonight. They also visited all of the properties and viewed the proposals at their actual location on the property. At this time, I'd like to explain a little bit about variances. Variances ask for a relaxation of a dimensional standard in the code. That's all they do. That's, you know, they don't ask for anything but a relaxation of the dimensional standard in the code. The decision to grant a variance must be backed by substantive reasons. These include an unnecessary hardship is being caused by the code requirement. The property is unique, and the unique limitations on the property prevent the landowner from meeting the required dimensional standards. And finally, if the variance were to be granted, no harm can be done to the public interest or the zoning code. It's the applicant's responsibility to present the case and provide the burden of proof as to why the variance should be granted. The personal situation of the applicant, financial hardship, or nearby violations cannot be considered as valid reasons to grant a variance. At the time of the onsite, the board noted that the visibility at the driveway entrance was good, and the garage over the lot line appears to be the only non-conforming structure on the lot. That's pretty much it for my comments.
Okay, do the applicants have anything in rebuttal? Okay. Again, the next one, the Gary and Leanne Weisbracher one, has been tabled to the December meeting at their request. Next variance, William and Jeannie Hendy, Rochester, Minnesota, had made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-235, paragraph B and paragraph 2, and 58-823, paragraph C, paragraph 2, of the Waushare County Zoning Code to increase the pitch of a roof of an existing 35 by 60 single-family dwelling, cumulative improvements exceeding 50% of the equalized assessed value of an existing non-conforming structure, non-conforming due to side lot setback on a non-conforming lot, non-conforming due to lot width at the ordinary high water mark in IS-20 in the RS-20 single-family residential zone within the shoreland area. Location an approximate 0.58 acre parcel of land known as lots 1 and 2 of certified survey map number 4288, being part of the northeast 1/4 of the southeast 1/4, section 25, town of Deerfield, White River Lake, N3053 Lake Drive.
Good. I'm William Hendy. I'm here representing myself and my wife, Jeannie.
Okay.
Our mailing address is Rochester, Minnesota, but we live considerable part of the year round at N3053 Lake Drive on the Upper Mill Pond here just outside of Wautoma. We bought that home in 2003. I'm very pleased to tell you that it has running water. I just wish that the water would run through the pipes and not down my walls. That's why I'm here asking for a variance. We've done a lot of things to try to correct the water coming into the home. We put a new roof on. We've had the home increased in insulation. We tried putting foam insulation on the periphery. We put on roof heating cables. I raked the snow off the roof. So far, all of those methods have failed. I've had 2 contractors, 2 roofers, and a consultant on insulation out to the home to try to figure out what to do about this problem, but we know what the problem is. And the problem is that there have been several additions to this house, one of the reasons why we have to come in here for a variance. And as a consequence, the pitch of the roof in those new additions is very low, about 3 to 12. And so I'm getting ice damming and snow buildup and ice damming, and the water's coming through. The solution to this is to increase the airflow underneath the roof. There's no room to increase the airflow in the present construction. So as a last resort, one that I hoped we wouldn't have to go to, I'm going to put a new roof on. With your authorization, I'm going to put a new roof on the house. It's not cheap, but we do stay there summer and winter, and we enjoy it very much living up here, so this is certainly worth it to us. With the new roof, we'll get more airflow. We'll add new soffits. We'll add a ridge vent, and we'll have a steeper pitch. That will allow more airflow under the roof, should correct the problem. There'll be no change in the footprint of the home whatsoever. It's just a new roof. We're not adding any additional space to the home itself. What we need is a steeper roof, and that's what we're here with an appeal to you to allow us to do so.
Okay, just a few general questions then. Has there been a recent survey out there? You know where the lot lines are?
I do.
Okay. And you know why the structure is considered non-conforming? You've already told us that because of the previous additions.
Right. Which was done before we bought the house, by the way.
Okay. You're not going to have any more stormwater runoff than you've got right now?
Nope.
Just going to go faster, you hope?
Might go a little faster, I hope.
Okay. No additional living space planned then?
No.
Okay. And approximate, what will the finished height be when you're done?
I don't know the actual elevation. It'll be a 6 to 12 pitch, and I gave you the diagrams, and it's on the diagrams as to how much higher the roof will be, but it's a relatively small house.
It looks like you've exhausted all your other options that you could possibly think of doing out there.
This is the most expensive one. I tried all the others first.
Okay. Any other committee questions?
You don't plan on doing any other improvements at this time, just the roof, right?
Not at this time, no. And have no plans for the immediate future.
We probably can do this at our business meeting, but we need to note that the adjacent lot is owned by you also,
Yes, there's another house next door, and I own that house as well.
and they are separate parcels.
Yes.
We can probably take care of that in our business meeting later then, so. Okay, and if an approval were granted, are you looking at construction this fall yet?
Absolutely,
Okay,
before the winter sets in.
okay. Thank you.
And I have the contractor lined up, ready to go, just pending your decision.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any correspondence?
We have one letter from Michael Wenholtz of the DNR. It's addressed to me. Terry, I'm writing to provide comments regarding the Wisbrocker, Hendy, and Majors property variance requests that are to be heard before the Waushara County Board of Adjustments on Thursday, October 20th. Thank you for your time and assistance in discussing these requests and providing me with application materials. I am providing these comments in place of making an appearance in person. Please have them delivered to and/or read before the Board of Adjustments. And regarding Hendy, he says, while replacing a failing roof is certainly understandable, the department does not agree with a further exceedance of the 50% rule of a nonconforming structure for a covered porch. It is my understanding the entire 50% allowance was used up in a previous development at the property. It is also my understanding that previous efforts to curb the problems of the low-pitched roof have been unsuccessful and that no increase in living space or square footage is being proposed. The department supports this request as long as there is indeed no increase in living space or square footage, and suggests the proposed gutters and downspouts be directed away from the lake. The department also supports any shoreline mitigation measures the county finds appropriate being included as conditions of granting the variance. And thank you for the opportunity to provide comments regarding these applications. Please contact me if you have any questions regarding this email. And that's signed Michael Wenholtz, Wenholz of the DNR.
Staff comments? No one registered to speak in favor or objecting?
Nope, no one registered to speak. Well, this is another variance. This time, it is to exceed 50% of the value of a non-conforming structure, and the structure is non-conforming due to the side lot setback, and it's also on a non-conforming lot. That's why we need to address the two lots owned by the same person at the business meeting. The only reason that the lot is considered non-conforming is because of the lot width at the lake. It's slightly less than what would be required. All other setbacks are met, and the construction will not increase the size of the home. When the board visited the property, they noted that there were no non-conforming structures near the water, but that a large tree had recently been removed following one of our storms, and that should be replaced. In addition, this proposal does not involve increases in impervious surfaces. My comments, I think this is a fairly straightforward application. The proposal is to improve the roof structure to prevent problems and damage from winter conditions. There will be no additions to the footprint of the home. And as far as revegetating the shoreline, additional vegetation may not be appropriate at this location because it's immediately adjacent to the earthen dam. So that's something that we usually look at, but this is almost on top of the dam for this property, and the last thing you want to do is plant trees that might damage that integrity. So that's it for my comments.
Okay, applicant have anything in rebuttal? Come on up.
No rebuttal, I just want to point out that it was not my action that took the tree down, it was God's action. And I don't want to act in lieu of in his stead. So I appreciate your tolerance of that. My understanding is I can call the zoning office tomorrow to find your decision? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next variance to be considered, Kurt and Tanya Schoenberger, Watoma, Wisconsin, have made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-542, paragraph C, paragraph 2, and 58-828, paragraph B of the Washare County Zoning Code to construct an approximate 30 by 50 one-story single-family dwelling with a 12 by 30 attached deck and a 28 by 28 attached garage. Existing single-family dwelling to be raised coming to within 7 feet of both the easterly and westerly side lot lines. 15-foot setback required, and to establish a driveway on a township road coming to within 58 feet of an existing driveway to the west. 75-foot spacing required in the RS-20 single-family residential zone within the shoreline area. Location, Lot 10, Block 1 of South Shore Park subdivision, being part of Government Lot 1 and part of the southeast 1/4, the southwest 1/4, Section 33, Town of Coloma, Pleasant Lake, W13510 South Pleasant Road. Correct?
Correct.
And your name, please.
It's Kurt Schoenberger.
Kurt, anything you care to add at this time?
No, well, there's a property with an existing old mobile home on it when we bought the property back in 2008. Our intentions are to tear that down and build a new ranch structure on the property.
Okay. Two general questions then for the record. Has there been a recent survey out there, or do you know where the lot lines are?
The survey was done in 2008 when I bought the property. The lot lines haven't changed.
Okay. Have you talked to the neighbors about the new home construction?
Yes, my neighbors, I've gotten to know them over the last 3 years, and they're on board with what we want to do.
And this will be a one-story home with a walkout basement towards the lake, is that correct?
That's correct.
What type of foundation will the home be on?
It'll be on a poured basement.
Poured concrete.
Yes.
And how far above the existing grade will the first floor elevation be?
Well, at the roadside, it will be relatively level with the lot. It's as the lot slopes towards the water that you get the walkout aspect, so it will be approximately 8 to 10 feet.
Basically what we're asking, you're not going to bring in a lot of fill or anything, are you, to?
No, we'll actually need to be removing parts of that from the site.
So you're going to be pretty much level where the home will be built?
Yeah, we'll maintain the slope as it is now.
Correct.
Along the sides of the house. We won't need to bring anything in off-site to change that.
And approximate, what will be the finished height of the with the walkout basement on the lake side of the home?
On the lake side, the finish will probably be 25 feet to the peak.
And how do you plan on dealing with stormwater runoff and potentially erosion?
Well, I met on site with Tom from Erosion Control, and we put together a plan as far as running the water correctly on the lot. During construction, the silt fence installation on 2 different levels, one at the water and then one back up on the site to prevent anything from during construction, and then the normal gutter downspout to be able to control the water flow.
Have you considered revegetating the shoreline?
Yeah, not only considered, but we've actually, like I say, talked with the land conservation about that and using their recommendations. On site currently, there's a existing seawall they'd like to see come down, change that, reshape that part of the shoreline, and they've got a couple different grass types that they like that we're more than happy to place there instead.
You plan on installing a new driveway 58 feet from the nearest one, is that it?
That's correct. Currently, we share a driveway with our neighbor. There's 3 lots that are essentially connected that all share the same driveway. To do this lot correctly, since we've been there for 3 years, to put a new septic system in correctly, where we want to turn that back by the roadside, it would be much more functional for the property if we can bring the driveway to the other side of it, so we're not using the shared driveway and having to try to come across it. So it prevents any issues with that septic system, and I think really improves both lots by getting rid of the shared aspect of the driveway.
There's not really a good location anywhere for visibility there, is there?
Well, it's a dead-end road when we come out of the driveway, because all of the trees that are existing there now will not be there. So that's where the septic system and everything needs to go on the roadside. So I believe visibility will increase dramatically because those trees that are there are essentially where the septic system needs to go now.
Will you have enough room for a turnaround and for parking there?
Yes.
You're not going to be backing out onto the road or anything?
No, not with the variance of the driveway. If we had to do a shared driveway, then there's an issue with the shared lot and how we'd be able to access our property with this new structure, and essentially the septic system with wanting to put it in correctly.
Any other improvements planned at this time?
Other than what both back in 2008, the zoning had requested that we again alter the shoreline. There's an existing retaining wall that's concrete that's failing. There's an existing set of concrete steps that are in there that nobody seems to like, and after going up and down them for several years, we don't like them either. So we're looking to take that out, and that would all be part of that reconstruction of that front part of the shoreline that basically was recommended by the zoning.
Okay. And if an approval were granted, what are you looking at construction this fall yet, or?
We'd like to get in there this fall, at least as far as redoing that shoreline and getting the foundation in, and this would be a winter construction project that we would look to have finished for spring.
Any other committee questions?
A well, new well, using
Yeah.
existing?
Yeah, no, the new well has to go. The new well will be placed up towards the front part of the property. The advantage to that is that it's getting farther away from where both our neighbors have everything that they've got. So if they ever need to do any remodeling, our well won't be an issue for them. So it'll be a brand new well along with a brand new septic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence on this?
Yes, we do. We received a letter from the town of Coloma on October 4th. It says, Washera County Planning Adjustment Committee regarding Kurt and Tanya Shaneberger. Town of Coloma has reviewed the Shanebergers' property at W13510 South Pleasant Road in the town of Coloma. The town of Coloma has no objections to the variance that the Shanebergers are applying for. The town wishes the Shanebergers the best of luck on their new project. Signed, sincerely, Mark Kirschner, Town of Coloma Chairman. We also received a letter on September 14th from Kirschner's Gas Service. This one's addressed to Amy. Dear Amy, Kurt and I met at the above-listed property to locate the position of a new septic system. The new septic system would go in the area of the existing mobile home. We will be able to do the soil work after the existing mobile home is removed. The existing septic system on the property is a conventional type system, and I feel a conventional septic will work on this property as the other lots next door have conventional systems as well. Please feel free to call me if you have any questions. Thank you, and that's signed sincerely, Mark Kirschner of Kirschner's Gas Service. And then today we received an email from Steve Halverson. Says, my name is Steve Halverson. I own a lot and dwelling at W13514 South Pleasant Road, immediately to the west of the lot where Kurt and Tanya Shaneberger are requesting a variance to the zoning standards, reducing the side lot setback on both sides of his lot from 15 feet to 7 feet. Since the proposed dwelling is 30 feet wide on a 49-foot lot, I would request that the side lot setback be 10 feet on the west side of their lot. My property is 49 feet wide with a dwelling that was constructed closer than 15 feet to this property line years ago before the side lot setback was increased. The dwelling to the east of Kurt's lot is larger, with the dwelling being situated toward the east side of that lot and a buffer of trees between this lot and Kurt's. When speaking with Kurt several weeks ago about his plans, he indicated that he would be situating his new home as much as possible to the east side of his lot for this reason. Therefore, I respectfully request that the side lot setbacks be reduced from 15 feet to a new setback of 7 feet on the east lot line and 10 feet on the west lot line of the property located at W13510 South Pleasant Road. This would give Kurt 32 feet of width in which to build his 30-foot dwelling. And that's signed, thank you, Steve Halverson. And that's it.
No one registered,
No
any
one
staff
registered.
comments?
Well, we have another variance request. This one is to build on a non-conforming lot, and that lot was previously approved by the Board of Adjustments, probably in 2008, and coming to within 7 feet of the side lot lines. The request is very similar to the one that was approved in 2009, but that approval expired, so the landowner needs to reapply and get another approval. All of our variances have a built-in expiration date. When the board visited the property, they noted that the nonconforming steps, small deck, and retaining walls still remain near the lake, and if these are removed, a revegetation plan should be implemented to restore the area. They also noted that a new septic system is proposed. The new home replaces a very old mobile home that appears to be in rather poor condition, and so a new home would be a definite improvement, and thus makes a bad situation better. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a very narrow lot. The new home would meet all the other setbacks except the side yard setbacks. The septic would be upgraded. The nonconforming structures near the lake could be removed, and a new driveway does not appear to create any more of an unsafe condition than already exists, and yet leaves room for the new septic system. So that's it.
Do you have anything in rebuttal to,
The only thing is in regards to Mr. Halverson on the western side, he's correct. We've had the conversations with him and the other neighbor, Cy Lucchese, to the west, or to the east, excuse me, and we would like to go as close to that lot line as we can, because Cy's property, that's mostly yard along there, where Mr. Halverson's property, the house sits very closely there. The only problem is that the lot tapers and narrows as it goes towards the road. And if the setback is only 10 feet, it will squeeze the house, probably not being conforming, as it comes back away from the water, not up where he's talking about. That's why the 7 feet needs to be maintained. Will be, like say, approximately 10 or more feet away from his property up close, but as it narrows back to the road, if it's only a 10-foot on that side, it would create a problem. So we'd like to maintain the 7 feet on both sides.
approximately how close is Halverson to the lot line?
He's probably 7 to 8 feet from the lot line as far as his property that we're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next variance to be considered, Patrick and Diana Pius, Racine, Wisconsin, have made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-542, paragraph C, paragraph 2, 58-823, paragraph C, paragraph 2, 58-826, paragraph B of the Waushara County Zoning Code to construct a 20 by 42 two-story single-family dwelling with an exposed full basement on the roadside for garage and a 16 by 20 irregularly shaped attached deck coming to within 2 feet 6 inches of the westerly side lot line and 2 feet 2 inches of the easterly side lot line, 15-foot setback required, and to within 20 feet of the center line of Chicago Point Road, 63-foot setback required on an existing non-conforming lot, non-conforming due to lot width and square footage in the RS-20 single-family residential zone within the shoreland area. Location part of Lot 10 of Lakeview Point subdivision, being part of Government Lot 4 and being part of the southeast 1/4, the southwest 1/4, Section 6, Town of Marion, Silver Lake W 7124 Chicago Point Road. Is that correct?
Sounds correct.
And your name for the record, please?
Patrick Pius, here representing myself and my wife Diana. For purposes of accuracy, I need to be able to read it rather than just ad-lib it so that I don't make any mistakes in measurements and things. Almost 2 years ago, we purchased our property at 7124 Chicago Point Road. To date, we have not been able to stay in it for even one night. It was and still is 7.5 feet over the west property line. It was never our intention to seek a variance for our house unless we were to exceed the 50% rule in its repair. At the time of our purchase, West 7128, the property to the west, was bank-owned, and our approximately 27-foot wide by 32-foot long house was considered grandfathered by Waushara County zoning because it predated zoning. Our lot was originally platted in the 1920s, and our house was built in the 1930s. As far as we can tell, it never moved, but somehow a property line is inside the building itself, goes through it. For us, the property was just what we wanted, and the house had promise with some cleanup and the work. We did not want, nor do we currently have time to maintain a large property as we did when we owned over 340 feet of Silver Lake frontage, and that property was last known as Camp Waushara. Disgruntled neighbors and a lawsuit from 7128 Chicago Point Road demanding the removal of our house from their property caused us to seek out the advice of the Waushara Zoning Department excuse me, about possible alternative solutions. Our conclusion is that the best thing to do is tear down the house and with a variance build a smaller based house measuring 20 foot by 40 foot. And these are our reasons why. Number one, the lots and the houses on Silver Lake come in all shapes and sizes. Our lot has 2-story dwellings on either side of it. Michael Moe of Moe Land Surveying says that the density does not change as a new single-family residence is replacing a single-family residence on an existing lot. Moving our house over off of the lot line by 2.5 feet allows for construction and maintenance, as well as creates 12 feet between our proposed house and 7128's new garage that is approximately 2 feet from our existing house. The proposed house will only have a footprint of 800 square feet on a lot that is 3,200 square feet, using only 25% of the land, and its lower level garage will hold 2 cars, relieving parking problems on the road. The 20-foot width of the proposed house is 7 feet less than the current house, allowing more visual opening between the adjoining property's structures. On our east lot line, the adjacent property has a boathouse that sets on the lot line, allowed because of its age. By a variance, it has an 11 by 11 screen glass gazebo that sets 3.5 feet from that same lot line. And at the roadside, it has an attached 2.5 to 3 car garage that sets 6.5 feet from the same lot line that was not approved by the zoning or by variance. According to the building permit, it is supposed to be 15 feet from our lot line. If it were built where it was permitted, our proposed 20-foot house would be able to move to the east, and most likely the ingress and egress easement would not have been a necessity. Due to the easement of 15 feet at the road that is on our property, and the garage being 6.5 feet from our lot line, there is 21.5 feet of driveway. Chicago Point Road is only 14 feet wide for two-way traffic. As the easement narrows on our lot to the north, the adjacent property's pavement widens out to 28 feet. We do not feel that there is a precedent being set by this variance request, as there are many Silver Lake properties that have houses on them that have side yard setbacks that are not only less than 15 feet, but are less than what we are able to allow. In particular, the Justin property at West 7120 Chicago Point Road, the adjacent property, asked for and received a variance for a 2-foot side yard setback on its east side, where there was already an adjacent property dwelling positioned at 2 feet from that lot line. The Marion Town Chairman, Gary Walenko, said he has no problems with the raising of our house, as Chicago Point Road has 2 entrances, and Jim Stafford of Stafford Excavating has done many teardowns in that area. There is no need to store materials in the easement area, as we will have lower level access, and we also have a storage building on Highway 21 for the excess materials. Thank you.
Okay. A few questions for the record then. When was the last survey done out there?
It was just received, I think, 2 days ago.
Okay, and all the lot lines are staked?
They're all currently staked.
Okay. Have you talked to the neighbors about the new home?
The neighbors don't talk with us.
What type of foundation will the home be placed on?
By estimate, yet it'll either be a block foundation or concrete, poured concrete.
And how far above existing grade will the first floor elevation be? And how much filling are you going to be doing there?
No filling. The only filling that'll take place is would be on the west side, where the 7.5 feet of the house would be coming out. That would be the neighbor's property, and just your ordinary backfilling once the foundation is in.
And what will be the finished height of the home?
Approximately 31 feet from the roadside. From the lakeside, more like 24.5 to 25 feet.
And how will you deal with stormwater runoff and potential erosion from this?
Gutters and downspouts will be installed so that we can direct it.
And have you considered revegetating the shoreline?
Really isn't much shoreline there. What we did do is there were 2 trees at the shoreline. We only removed one and offset the stairway to the lake so that the other tree could remain.
Okay.
So as not to disturb that bank.
What is your footage on the lake side?
13.5 feet
13.5 foot of lake
frontage. Triangular piece of property.
And what is your footage on the roadside then?
35 feet, including the 15-foot easement.
Are you sure construction is not going to interfere with this easement of your neighbors or the other side with 2 foot of clearance?
Construction won't interfere with it. The construction will take place on the decks, raised, of course, from inside the house. On the 2-foot 6-inch side of the property, the usage of catwalks will be used so that we are contained only on our property. 4x4 posts to the roof.
I guess it's possible, but it's an awful small clearance to do construction of a home 2 feet from a lot line.
It is, but from a catwalk, basically on the exterior of the house, what needs to be installed on it is the siding, and typically from a catwalk is how normal companies are going to do that versus ladders anyway, so that you can walk right along the walls and nail it in.
What about after the home's built? Are you going to be able to do normal maintenance on a,
More or less be maintenance-free. The windows will crank all the way open so that they can be cleaned from inside the house. Aluminum will be installed on the fascia and the soffits.
okay. How large of an overhang will you have?
1 foot.
And are you sure water runoff from the roof can be contained on your lot?
The roof that's there currently is actually larger than the roof of the new house that's proposed, and there isn't any erosion or water problems currently, and there is no control on the house currently as far as gutters and downspouts. No erosion problems have been detected.
What about places for parking?
The open, or I should say the basement garage, being 20 by 40, will allow at least 2 cars, if not 3 cars, to actually be parked in the basement, which will alleviate the parking problem. And then for a 4th, should it be necessary, it could be parked right in front of the garage and off of the road.
Okay.
And not in the easement.
Any other improvements planned at this time?
No.
And what will the square foot living area of this new home be?
Versus the square footage of the exterior?
What is the square foot of the living space in the new home?
The exterior dimensions are 800 square feet. Interior dimensions minus walls, I don't have a calculation on that.
But it is 2 stories,
Oh,
right?
yeah, well, so 16, I thought we were just talking about the first floor.
No,
It
and
is
then
2 stories.
there's mechanical space in the basement? Did I
Yes.
understand that right?
Have you considered any other options for a home on this lot?
There aren't a whole lot of other options besides looking into houses that would roll in on wheels and stay on wheels. And that's usually not something that is smiled upon versus a constructed house.
What is the real hardship and unique property limitations that would support granting this variance?
The hardship is that there is a current lawsuit that is happening. The house is over the property line. For what reason it's over the property line, it is hard to ascertain. When it actually occurred is also difficult to figure out. In order to solve the problems, it appears that the best way to do it is to remove the current house. We can't just take off 7.5 feet and put a wall on that and call it a house. That would be on the property line. Everything interior to the house as well as the roof would basically be destroyed by doing that. To reclaim the house afterwards would basically mean gutting it, tearing everything out of it, redoing the floors, redoing ceiling joists, rebuilding a roof that's been cut in half. So it seems more suited to tearing it down, rebuilding from the ground up.
You are on municipal sewer there, right?
We are in sewer.
Okay. And are you aware of what permits you will need for construction?
Building permits? Yes.
Okay. If an approval were granted, when would you start construction?
Jim Stafford is prepared to bring that house down within the next 2 weeks,
And construction?
shortly thereafter.
Okay. Any other committee questions at this time?
If the 35-foot easement on your roadside, that's 35 feet, 15 feet of it's
15
easement,
feet is easement.
does that continue down to the lake?
No, the 15-foot easement at the road is the widest, and it triangulates up to the top of the hill to a 0.
It does not go to the lake.
The easement does not go to the lake. It actually is contained in the asphalt of the driveway.
How long have you owned the property?
Almost 2 years.
And were you aware of the problems when you purchased it?
We were aware that it was over the property line, but the terminology then was grandfathered, that in terms of the county, that nothing would happen to the house. There would be no orders as far as having to remove it or to do anything to it. The house can stay. In terms of ownership of the property next door, it was bank-owned because it was a foreclosure action, and that house at that time was not for sale. So when it came up for sale, we attempted to purchase the house, but the house was purchased really fast, and there was no chance of doing that to even try to straighten these problems out. The current owners of the house have chosen not to want to straighten that out, but to sue us in order to get our house off of their property. So I was aware of it, but there wasn't really anything to negotiate when we purchased it. It went too fast.
Any other committee questions? Okay. Can I have a seat then?
Okay.
Correspondence?
Yes, we have several letters. One, again, was written by Patrick and Diana Pius that was signed by some of the neighbors in favor, so I will read that now. We are Patrick K. and Diana Pius, and we are applying for a variance to raise the dwelling at W7124 Chicago Point Road, which currently sits partially on the adjacent property, and to rebuild a 20-foot wide home to be contained totally on our own property. We are on an extremely narrow 35-foot wide pie-shaped lot and require the variance to be allowed to build closer to side yard setbacks than current zoning codes. By signing below, you are acknowledging to the Board of Adjustments that you have no objections to the granting of our variance requests. And that was signed by Joyce E. Grenier, G-R-E-N-I-E-R, Dave Grenier, and Claire Warren, W-A-R-R-E-N. On October 18th, we received a letter from Tony and Cher Dreesen regarding support for variance request of Patrick and Diana Pius. We live close to the Pius' cottage on Chicago Point Road. We strongly support their variance request to construct a new house on their property. The current building has been an eyesore and uninhabited for decades. Replacing this with a new structure would improve the neighborhood. We have viewed the drawings for the new house and note that it would fit the elevation nicely. In addition, the new building would be narrower in width than the existing building. We encourage the Board of Adjustments to approve the variance request of the Piuses. And that is signed Tony and Cher, C-H-E-R, Dreesen, D-R-I-E-S-S-E-N. And their address is N2140, Chicago Point Road.
What's the female's name?
Cher,
Cher.
just like the singer. And then we have a letter received October 17th from the Silver Lake Management District to the Waushara County Board of Adjustments regarding Patrick and Diana Pius property variance request. The Silver Lake Management District Board of Directors discussed this variance request at its October 15th, 2011 board meeting. The board is concerned about this request for the following reasons. We are concerned that the desire to build this type of building on such a small lot will contribute to density issues that are not in the best interest of Silver Lake and its users. If this type of construction is permitted, we are concerned that other people will then try to build similar structures. Many of the lots on the lake are in the 40 to 60 foot width range, but very few, if any, are only about 13 feet wide at the lakefront and approximately 20 feet wide at the road, not including the easement. Silver Lake is already heavily developed and used. A variance of this type will set a dangerous precedent. Drainage is another concern. Putting buildings on lots that use well over 50% of the usable land space is not a good thing for the lake. There are no doubt many other concerns that people may have on this matter, but these are the ones that concern the Lake District. It is not in the best interest of the lake to increase the density by allowing such a small lot to be developed as proposed. I personally have spent more time in calls and discussion on this variance request than I have on any other issue during the 10 years I have been chairman of the district. And that's signed Ed Kissinger, Chairman, Silver Lake Management District. On October 20th, we received a letter from Laurel Lutz Schlechter and Donald Schlechter, who live at N2092 Chicago Point Road. And it says, Dear board members, we are writing in regards to the variance application for the Pius property. located at W7124 Chicago Point Road. The variance that is requested for this property is excessive. We firmly believe that people have the right to enjoy their property and that allowances should be made under certain circumstances, but this property was purchased with full knowledge of the property's dimensions, knowing the property was non-conforming and that the building on the property was not habitable. The 2 to 2.6 foot side setbacks are ridiculous. We think this would be uncomfortable for property owners on either side who are also entitled to enjoy their properties. Additionally, the crowding it would cause and the look of a 20-foot wide building would be terrible. This affects all owners in the area. Effort has been given for some time to maintain acceptable setbacks, even with all the new construction. Approving these variances would dilute what has been accomplished up to this point. Therefore, we ask that this request not be granted. And again, that's Laurel Lutz Schlechter, L-U-T-Z.
So the last name, please.
Yep, L-U-T-Z dash
L-U-T-Z.
dash S-L-E-C-H-T-A.
Run it by me again.
S-L-E-C-H-T-A.
L-E-C-H.
T-A.
Okay.
And Donald Schlechter, spelled the same way. Okay. And then we received a letter on October 20th to the Washera County Board of Adjustments regarding Patrick and Diana Pius variance request. Charlie and Mary Plock, property owners at N2106 State Road 73, Silver Lake, would desire the board to reject any variances pertaining to the Patrick Pius property located at W7124 Chicago Point Road. And again, that's signed Charlie and Mary Plock, P-L-A-C-H. On October 18th, we received a letter from James and Mary Madden, M-A-D-D-E-N. We recently became aware of the variance application submitted by Patrick and Diana Pius. We obtained a copy of the variance application and took the time to stop at the site at W7124 Chicago Point Road, Town of Marion. While we can understand why the applicants wish to build on the site, their proposed project on such a small, irregular lot will not fit in with other homes in the area. The variance that they have requested does not fit with the variances that normally granted and is certain to bring adjacent neighbors difficulties. We are not immediate neighbors and will not be personally affected by the variance. We do believe that granting the variance as requested could set precedent and legal issues for future variance requests. And that's James and Mary Madden from N2098 Chicago Point Road. On October 18th, we received a letter. As permanent residents on Silver Lake, we are strongly opposed to the variance applied for by Pat and Diana Pius. We feel this may set a precedent for the building of other nonconforming structures on inadequate small lots. The beauty of Silver Lake will not be enhanced by the overcrowding of properties. We do not feel it is fair to adjacent property owners or to any Silver Lake property owners. And that's signed sincerely, Don and Nancy Mays, M-A-E-S. W7269 State Road 21. On October 18th, we received a letter from James W. Schrader, S-C-H-R-O-E-D-E-R. Dear Washera County Board of Adjustments, I'm writing this letter to oppose the granting of a variance to Patrick and Diana Pius for construction of a new dwelling that could come within 2 to 3 feet of the west and east lot lines. I believe that granting of this variance would set a precedent that would cause difficulty for the zoning office in the future to turn down any similar request. In looking at the site and the plat of survey, the lot does not appear to me to be buildable at all. If the site zoning regulations would be followed, being a fellow Silver Lake homeowner, I can only imagine how upset I would be if my neighbor was trying to build a structure less than 3 feet from my lot line. The proposed construction appears so impractical to me that it's difficult to know where to start in the listing of reasons not to construct this new dwelling, but I'll try to list a few. The trapezoidal-shaped lot is only about 8 feet wide at the water's edge. This is more like access dimension than a dwelling site. The back of the lot is only about 30 feet wide, also very narrow to construct a dwelling. When one purchases a property, especially when paying a substantial price to own property on Silver Lake, one expects the local government to help protect the value of that substantial investment. If this variance is granted, the value of all the properties nearby will be reduced significantly. This property was purchased only recently and must have been satisfactory for use when purchased. What has now changed to require granting this variance request? The purchasers must have had prior knowledge of the property dimensions and zoning rules. Could a person do any major construction such as being proposed without infringing upon one or both of the neighbors' properties? I'm pretty sure both neighbors oppose granting this variance request. If it is granted, do both neighbors construct fences along the west and east boundaries? This would constitute an eyesore, in my opinion. Thank you for considering my viewpoints expressed in this letter. And very truly yours again, James W. Schrader. On October 18th, we received a letter from Eugene and Linda Fenner, F-E-N-N-E-R. I'm going to be out of town this Thursday, October 20th, 2011, or otherwise I would personally attend this variance meeting. Our names are Eugene and Linda Fenner, and we live at W7163 Chicago Point Road, Watoma, Wisconsin. As a homeowner on Chicago Point Road, we oppose the requested variance for Patrick and Diana Pius regarding building a new home on a very non-conforming lake lot. The Pius's variance request impedes substantially on both neighbors, Bakers and Justins, with only a 2-foot 6-inch setback on the westerly side lot line and an even smaller 2-foot 2-inch setback on the easterly side lot line. These requested variances equate to a total setback of 4 feet 8 inches, 15% of the 30-foot normally needed. Also, how could any future utilities be fixed once this structure is built, such as replacement of the well? What precedents could the Waushara County Board of Adjustment be setting for future buildings within Waushara County if they allowed building structures on lots 25 feet in width or in length? There is another lake lot located on Chicago Point Road that is currently unbuildable due to its 45-foot width. But if the Board of Adjustments allows this variance request, you will possibly set precedents for building on this currently empty lake lot. And that was signed sincerely, Eugene and Linda Fenner. On October 17th, we received a letter from the Gagnon Law Office. Dear members of the board, Gagnon Law Office represents Brian and Linda Justin, the owners of property at W7120 Chicago Point Road on Silver Lake in Watoma. Their property is directly impacted by the proposed variance recently requested by Patrick and Diana Pius, and therefore we are writing this letter on their behalf to express their strong objection to the proposed variance. We also welcome any questions the board may have of our clients who will be present at the hearing in this matter on October 20th. The Justin's property lies east of and adjacent to the Pius property. If the members of the board have had the opportunity to personally observe the properties, it will be appreciated how closely the present buildings are situated relative to each other. A blacktop driveway which services the Justin's property lies partially on both sides of the common boundary line running north to south. The western portion of that driveway, i.e. the portion situated on the Pius property, has historically been protected by an easement of record for the benefit of our clients. A photocopy of that easement is enclosed for the board's convenience. As can be seen from its unambiguous terms, the extent of the easement is defined by the western edge of the existing blacktop on one side and the party's north-south boundary line on the other. Pius proposes to construct a building abutting the edge of the blacktop, effectively forming a 2-story high wall along nearly the entire western side of the driveway. This fact raises the first point of the Justin's objection to the variance request, namely that construction and maintenance of such a structure will necessarily interfere with the Justin's easement rights under the aforementioned easement. For example, excavation of the basement will require excavation well into the easement area, blocking the Justin's use of a substantial portion of the driveway. Regular maintenance of over 40 feet of the proposed building will frequently require placement of ladders and vehicles within the easement area, which will block Justin's use of the driveway contrary to the rights they are promised pursuant to the easement agreement. Moreover, the height and length of the proposed building and its close proximity to the Justin's home will create a narrow canyon-like appearance completely at odds with the aesthetic of the surrounding area. This will undoubtedly have a substantial negative effect on the values of not only Justin's home but surrounding homes as well. A second point for the Justin's objection to the proposed variance is that the applicants fail to show an unnecessary hardship will be created by the board's denial of the request. Prior to the applicant's purchase of the lot, the existing cabin sat vacant for at least 10 to 20 years. The condition of the cabin has not changed substantially from the time of purchase by Pius, nor has the situation of that existing cabin with respect to the lot lines changed. It should have been clear to the applicants prior to their purchase of the lot that replacing the existing cabin with a larger cabin would not be possible. Nevertheless, other uses for the lot remain, such as providing access to Silver Lake, providing a recreational space, and the like. In other words, the applicants do not have to construct a house to enjoy the property. Typically, lots as narrow as this are not used for construction of cabins, thus no unnecessary hardship exists. The Justins urge the board to consider not only their own interests in this matter, but the interests of the Silver Lake property owners as well. Buildings, the shape of which is dictated by tight boundary lines, more often than not sacrifice aesthetic beauty to simply fit the space. That is clearly evident by the purely utilitarian shoebox shape of the applicant's proposed structure. Close proximity of such structures to existing homes unfairly and unnecessarily devalues the appeal of surrounding homes. There is simply no room to construct scenic buffers like hedges or trees. Neighbors are forced to rely on unappealing and unnatural-looking fences to provide privacy. This is certainly not in the public's interest. Nor is it in the public's interest for the board to encourage perpetuation of substandard lots. Allowing substantial improvement to such lots, as is proposed in this case, effectively discourages the eventual incorporation of such lots into the surrounding larger parcels. When improvement on substandard lots is discouraged, adjacent landowners are more likely to purchase such lots to create green spaces, tree lines, or improvements to existing conforming structures, thereby raising not only their own property values, but the values of surrounding properties as well. For these reasons, and for reasons that will surely be discussed at the upcoming hearing on October 20th, on behalf of our clients, we urge the board to deny the Pius's application in its entirety. And that's signed respectfully, J. Stephen Heil of the Gagnon Law Office. Heil is H-E-I-L. I need to take a drink. On October 17th, we received a fax says, Dear Misters Wagner, Wilson, Tim, and Benz, my name is Scott Bertzik. I own the residence located at N2118 Chicago Point Road, and I write with respect to the above referenced application for a variance, set to be heard by the Board of Adjustments on October 20th, 2011. Specifically for reasons stated below, I oppose the variance requested and urge that the application be denied. I submit my comments in writing because I live out of state and cannot personally attend the hearing. At the outset, I should note that I am not in the habit of opposing applications for variances to build on Silver Lake. I applied for and received one myself. However, this application goes too far, and I believe that it would be detrimental for many reasons. First, from the description in the public notice, the variances come so close to neighboring boundaries on both sides as to be unworkable, not just from a privacy for neighbors standpoint, but from the standpoint of aesthetics and practicality of building. Indeed, the boundaries are so close that it would be next to impossible to even build the proposed structure without encroaching on the neighbors' properties. Second, it seems from the description that there will be no room for anyone but the owners to park, creating safety and traffic hazard should there be any guests. Third, putting in a structure like this would change the look and feel of the subdivision in ways that are undesirable. The whole point of building and living on a lake in a rural area is to have a sanctuary free from the congestion of living in an urban environment. This proposed variance is utterly inconsistent with that notion, and it will take away from the look and feel of the surrounding area. Finally, the granting of this variance would set a dangerous precedent for Silver Lake. If the Board of Adjustment were to grant this extraordinary variance, on what principled basis could any future request by other applicants be denied? In essence, the applicants here propose to take up virtually their entire lot up to their boundary lines, with their neighbors building a large two-story box with no parking, and so far as I can tell, not even room for a sidewalk to the front door. The precedent that would be set by granting this application is a precedent that says, do what you want, build on every inch of your land with no thought for your neighbors, safety, or anything else. It goes too far. Thank you for your consideration of this letter. If my father, Donald Bertzik, is in attendance, please know that he has authority to speak on my behalf. That's signed, very truly yours, Scott D. Bertzik, B-E-R-T-Z-Y-K. On October 17th, we received a letter from Robert and Marilyn Cheeseborough. My wife have been residents on Silver Lake, residing in our home at W6939 State Road 21, Town of Marion, now identified as Silvercrest Resort Plat, part of Lots 7 and 8, Block N, now Deachin's Country Charm Condominium Plat, Unit 2 and 3, which we built about 14 years ago. We wish to offer our sincerest objection to the variance application requested by Mr. and Mrs. Patrick and Diana Pius, submitted on September 13th. We are very familiar with the property for which the Piuses have requested multiple zoning variances for the property they hold at W7124 Chicago Point Road. Allow us to express our complete agreement that the variances they request in their application of 91311 are totally detrimental to the development of reasonable zoning requirements of our lake area. We feel their application to bypass reasonable zoning requirements to satisfy their needs and fulfill the gamble they made is unacceptable. The recent purchase of non-conforming property from Mr. Ron Matola and sacrificing both the eastern and western neighbors' properties protection under current zoning laws is abhorrent. Granting of the request for variance not only harms two legitimate property landowners, but in our opinion may establish a precedence for other similar requests which may occur on our beautiful lake and other lakes in our jurisdiction. We respectfully request the board to not approve their variance request. And again, that's signed Robert and Marilyn Cheeseborough, CHESBROUGH. We got a lot of mail on October 17th because we got another letter addressed to the Waushara County Board of Adjustments. Members of the board, my wife and I are property owners at W7134 Chicago Point Road, two properties to the west of the Pius property. Unfortunately, we are unable to attend this hearing due to prior commitments. Our strong feelings about the relief being sought prompts us to write this letter. We object to the variances being requested for the Pius property. The request for variances mentions the storm earlier this year during which the roof of the building on the subject property was damaged. As a result of this damage, the petitioners plan to tear down the present structure and replace it with another building. It is this building for which the variances are sought. If the variance proposals presently in front of this board had been made when this property was first purchased, long before this storm, they would have been met with the same vigorous objections presently being raised. This property will not accommodate a conforming use due to extremely narrow shape and its size. This was true when the property was purchased, is true now, and has nothing to do with the intervening storm. Our family has lived in this neighborhood and has been a member of this community for over 20 years. Many of our neighbors have lived here longer. Approving a rectangular 20-foot wide nonconforming use that will seriously encroach on abutting properties to achieve even that width sets a dangerous precedent for this neighborhood and for other properties on the lake. The zoning and setback regulations being challenged here exist to protect the public interest and to prevent a structure from being built so close to a pre-existing home that it amounts to an annex. The variances being sought here are contrary to that interest, and for this reason we object to the variances. Thank you for the opportunity to address you, and that signed sincerely Judith and Dennis Shane, S-C-H-O-E-N. One more drink. On October 17th, we also received a letter from Robert and Linda Glenn, G-L-E-N-N. Members of the board, my wife and I own two properties, W7141 and W7142, 3 lots to the west of the Pius property. As we are unable to attend the meeting scheduled for October 20th, we submit this letter in opposition to the variance sought. We object to the variance application submitted by Pius. Quite frankly, the variances sought are not consistent with the public interest. The variances sought, far from seeking mere deviations from the strict letter of the requirements governing setback area and frontage, would require setting aside all such requirements and the reasons supporting them. It is our understanding that these requirements existed prior to the recent storm damage to the dwelling on the property and well before the unique property was purchased by the applicants. The proposed structure is far too close to the property and dwellings of the adjoining neighbors. Thank you for consideration, Robert and Linda Glenn. On October 17th, we received a letter from Ed and Bonnie Kissinger. Waushara County Board of Adjustment, we are not in favor of the request for a variance that the Piuses have pending at the hearing on October 20th. We feel that the lot is not of sufficient size and shape to support a 20 by 42 two-story structure on a full basement. We feel that lots should be able to sustain structures that complement the land and the structures that surround it. This house is too big for such a small lot. The fact that the lot is small had to be known by the Piuses when they purchased it. To allow them to take a bad situation and make it worse is not in anyone's best interest. We urge you to deny this variance request. This letter reflects our personal opinions. It is not connected to my position on the Silver Lake Management District Board. And again, that's signed sincerely, Ed and Bonnie Kissinger. And that's
Okay, we have several people registered.
just one to speak. You two.
We have Attorney Stephen Heil registered to speak in opposition.
Good evening, folks. In light of the extent of opposition that you've heard read in the letters, I'm going to keep this very brief. I think I've summarized my client's, the Justin's position in this in my letter, but I would like to point out a few items raised by Mr. Pius when he spoke in request of the application, and one has to do with the idea that, or the suggestion that my clients had previously petitioned this board for a 2-foot variance at some point. My client simply never did that. I don't know what he's referring to with respect to that. The second thing is, I think common sense here will tell everyone that the prospect of excavating a 20-foot by 40-foot basement within 2 feet of existing asphalt or blacktop and not disturbing that is ludicrous. There's simply no way that a building 2 stories high is going to be constructed in that type of space without dirt, without cave-ins, without issues happening on that eastern side of the property. And that's not even to speak of problems along Mr. Baker's property. So I think that that's just a matter of common sense. As the board well knows, that these setbacks requirements didn't just get pulled out of thin air. If we look at the code's own statement as to its objectives and purposes, one is to fix reasonable standards. Well, that means that at the time the code was enacted, 15 feet was considered on a reasonable basis. In other words, the competing interests of the aesthetic and of the protection of the neighbor's property was balanced against the benefit to the landowner of being able to use their space. In this case, we have somebody who comes onto a property, purchased a property within, I believe it was 2 years or just right around 2 years ago, fully aware of the limitations of that property. Mr. Pius indicated his expectation at the time was that he would purchase what is now Mr. Baker's property along with it so that he would have a large enough area to construct a home. But for whatever reason that had nothing to do with my clients whatsoever, that didn't pan out for him. The board doesn't sit here to correct gambles, lost gambles of parties when they want to make that kind of a gamble. Yes, it might be a financial loss to the Piuses, but that is not a basis to grant a request for a variance. There's nothing unique about the lot other than its small size. It doesn't slope any differently than any of the surrounding lots. It doesn't have any characteristics that are unusual other than the fact that it's just simply too small to be practically buildable. Well, that's the circumstance that would apply to any lot of the same size. And my understanding is that there are at least several. There's been reference to one other lot that was slightly larger at the roadside. But what we're talking about here, I think particularly in juxtaposition to the earlier request before the board, we're not talking about a modification of a setback requirement. I want to position my house here, but I need 4 feet along one side, or I need one corner, variance for one corner because it's going to encroach, or my garage is going to have to be 4 feet closer to the road, or something like that. We're talking about more or less an abrogation of setbacks altogether. 15 feet to 2 feet is not a variance. That's essentially wiping out the setback. And I can't stress enough my own belief that it's just bad policy to push this problem off for 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now when, contrary to what Mr. Pius asserts, there's no such thing as a maintenance-free building. Eventually, it's going to require some maintenance. Eventually, it's going to wear out. Eventually, it's going to look, if it's not routinely improved, it's going to look like the structure that's on there right now. And some board, years from now, is going to be dealing with the exact same problem. So what public interest is served by pushing these substandard lots out into the future? It might be a hardship to Mr. Pius, but it's one he took on knowingly and willingly when he purchased the property. The fact that there was an encroachment on one side, that's not the board's problem. It's not my client's problem. It's not any of the other owners, except I guess Mr. Baker has to deal with it. But Mr. Pius took on that issue at the time he purchased the lot. So frankly, I don't see where there is a hardship here. It's certainly, if there is a hardship created by a lawsuit, it's one he walked into it, eyes wide open, and none of that would support a reasoned basis for granting such an extreme variance. Thank you.
Okay. Registered to speak in opposition, Dwayne Bartel.
Well, I don't know what to say that hasn't already been said. I live at W7184 Chicago Point Road, which is about 8 places removed from the Piuses. In one of the letters written in opposition, it mentioned another lot on that road. That lot is next to me, and that is my concern. It's also a subpar, unbuildable outlot, whatever term you want to put on it. But if you indeed pass this, I probably will be facing the same problem, who knows, 5, 6, 7 years down the road. I've lived on Chicago Point Road for 45 years. I built 2 homes on that. And what the attorney just mentioned about cave-in, I had that problem. And I had to go for variances on lot lines, but it wasn't 2 feet or 3 feet. It was like 6 feet or 7 feet, and I still had cave-ins because that's all sand there. But I'm not going to take any more time. I hope the board votes this down, because I certainly do not want to go through this in a few years. If you let this go through, you're opening a can of worms. And I would say one more thing. The 2 letters in favor from the Greniers and from Tony and Cher Dreesen, they're good friends of mine. They're neighbors of mine. Lived next door to them for quite a few years. There is an underlying reason why they are voting in favor of this. And I would say that they're sitting here right now because they are friends of mine. But they're trying to get even with someone. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we have several people registered in opposition but not speak. I'll read your name, and if you just raise your hand or be recognized. Dale Schulman. Thank you. Mary Adams. Susan Borden, Dale Borden. William Adams. Thomas Larson. Barbara Bartle. Okay. that is all the people registered. Staff comments?
Well, when the board visited the property, they noted that the existing dwelling, concrete stairs, and patios towards the lake are all non-conforming. They also noted that it would be extremely difficult to build and then maintain the proposed home along with other necessary items such as a well when it is proposed to be located so close to the side lot lines. I'd like to say a few things. It's obvious that the courts have determined that this is a separate parcel. We can't go there. You know, this is a separate parcel, and it's also obvious that a variance would need to be granted in order to build anything on this lot. I don't think anything of any substance could be built without the granting of a variance. I also think that there's a difference between vacant residentially zoned lots and lots that already have a home on them. I think that if you buy a home, or if you buy a lot with a home on it and it's zoned residential, you have some expectation of either maintaining that home or building a new one. So I believe that a variance should be granted for a single-family residence in the residential zone when there is already a single-family home there. Ruth can correct me if she thinks I'm wrong. So I think this property is unique, and I think there is a hardship, and it meets those two statutory criteria for granting of a variance. The question then becomes, what can reasonably be constructed here that protects the property owner's right to that permitted use, and yet will not harm the neighbor's properties and rights both during and after construction, maintains the integrity of the zoning code and the public interest at large. It's a lot to consider here. How much room is really needed during construction? How much room is needed for things such as water runoff controls or general maintenance after construction? How much room is needed to provide access around the home for any and all purposes, whether it's access, you know, around the home? Can you walk around the home without having to go through it to get to the other side? Obviously, there is no such thing as a maintenance-free home, so yes, you are going to have to maintain it. Getting to the well, if there's ever any problems with the well or having to drill a new one. You know, it's something that the board has to consider. Keep in mind, the only thing the zoning code requires for a dwelling is that there's a minimum of 720 square feet of living area. We have no dimensional requirements beyond having 720 square feet of living area. This is certainly not an easy decision, but it's one the board is charged with, and you have to remember that they're a quasi-judicial body that must use their best judgment in applying the regulations in a manner that is fair to all involved, both the property owner, the neighbors, the zoning code, and the public interest at large. Like I said, I think it's very difficult, but one that they must do. I also want to point out that previous variances should not be considered as a reason to grant another variance. Every case is different. You know, someone might get a variance to be 2 feet from a lot line, and that doesn't mean that you grant all the other ones that come along. So keep in mind, just because one's been granted doesn't mean that you grant all the other ones that come along. And that would be it for my comments.
Does the applicant have anything in rebuttal?
As Terry pointed out, the house already exists on its own separate lot. There were a couple comments made that we're using up over 50% of the land for the building. I contest that. The numbers prove different. The property is 3,200 square feet, and the exterior dimensions of the house are 800 square feet. The way I calculate that, that's about 25%. Hard to dispute the numbers. We looked at a lot of the properties around the Chicago Point Road area, and it would be my conclusion that the majority of them use up more than 50% of their land. But our proposal does not. If the house can be built in 2 foot 6 inches, which I've already had a builder take a look at it. Wendell Horst built another building for me on Highway 21. He says he can do it. Says there's no problem in doing it. He's done it before and he can do it again. I'm confident that he can do it. I've seen his work and he's done work for me. The idea that there was no variance request for the property next door to me. And the attorney for the Justins says he has no idea what that is or that that even occurred. The Justins did not ask for that variance, but the person that they purchased the house from did. And the date that that was submitted is 12/22/1997. The reason for the variance request states to relocate a gazebo to within 3.5 feet of the westerly side lot line. That's mine. And the bedroom, porch, bathroom addition to come to within 2 feet of the easterly side lot line. It's signed by William Nett, and it looks like it's signed by Mark Schumacher, 12/22/97. So it does exist. It did happen, and the house is there. The house next door to it is approximately 2 feet from that same lot line. If you were to hang from both gutters from both houses, you could do pull-ups between those two houses. That's as close as they get. Ours is nowhere near that. Our house to the baker's garage, like I had said, would be about 12 feet. Our house to the attached garage for the Justins is approximately 21 feet. That's a considerable distance. So we've done everything we can. The house is as minimal as it can be without turning it into a trailer home. And I just don't know what else we can do with it, considering there is a house there. The alternative is much different. Thank you.
Okay. Ruth, do you have any comments at this time?
Well, I can maybe just give a little bit of background on this particular property because fortunately or unfortunately I've been here long enough to kind of remember when this problem was created. And actually, prior to the Piuses buying this property and the property that the Bakers now own were owned by the same gentleman. When he died, the properties went into foreclosure, and actually the sheriff had contacted my office and the zoning office at that time to say, I have these two sheriff's sales and one house appears to be on the other house's lot line. Am I supposed to do this? And we had looked into the statutes, and it was something that we tried to correct back then, but we had no authority to do so because there are some very specific statutory exemptions that deal with probate and foreclosures and the rights of the banks who own the different houses, and they were allowed to sell their parcels separately. If Mr. Mottola had tried to sell them separately while he was alive, we would not have allowed that. The zoning regulations would have required that to become one lot and sold together, but that didn't happen. And so when this did take place, due to the circumstances in the statutes, they were required to be sold separately, and there was nothing that the county could do about that to try to correct that problem. There also is case law out there that indicates that if the county were to deny a use in a residential land, such as a house where a house has already existed, that it's considered a taking, and the county could be forced to purchase the property. So the board really has to decide here is what is allowable and how much of a relaxation of the standards is going to be granted. I agree with Terry's comments that this is a residential piece of property with an existing house. Yes, it's on a very small non-conforming lot. Yes, there is a problem with the house being over the lot line. Yes, Mr. Pius knew that all when he purchased it. But the county is not in a position legally to deny him use of his property. Certainly this board has the authority to say that the variance that's being requested is too much, that it's too much of a relaxation for the standards. I don't believe you have the authority to deny every single variance request that comes to this property. I do believe that at some point some type of house is going to be allowed. Whether it's this particular house or not, that's your decision to make. But that's kind of how we got to where we're at. So this was not a decision that was fully created by the Piuses. It's not a decision that the county didn't try to get the property into one lot. It was the circumstances, and now we are left with what we're left with. and the decision is going to be yours tonight to determine whether or not this is a reasonable request or not. But for all of you in attendance, if this request is denied, I fully anticipate that the Piuses or the next owners will make a similar request unless it's purchased by someone who wants a vacant lot, and at some point in time, there will be a new house on that lot. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Next variance to be considered, First Lutheran Church, Poisippi, Wisconsin, made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-825, paragraph C of the Waushara County Zoning Code to replace 25-foot steeple with a 29-foot steeple, resulting in an overall height of 73 feet, exceeding the 60-foot height maximum on an existing church in the CC Community Commercial Zone. Location, Lot 6, Block 4 of the original plat of the Village of Poisippi, being part of the northeast 1/4, the northwest 1/4, Section 7, Town of Poisippi, W2314 Prospect Street, Poisippi. Is someone representing the church here?
He submitted a slip.
Yeah, I'm Gary Beening. I live in Berlin, but I am president of the church council from First. Very unfamiliar with all this. That's why the green form got filled out. I guess I don't have to come back and repeat myself. Early this year, we needed to replace the roof on our church. We had a lot of water damage coming in, water coming in and damage. In the process, we wanted to modify a building standard from the 70s, the flat roof. So we had to go through engineering plans and all of this. We put on a new roof. Lo and behold, the steeple now leaks. The steeple is part of the original church that was moved from across the street to the present location and built around. We believe the bell tower itself and the steeple were manufactured or built in approximately 1882. Obviously, there's certain portions of the steeple where the artisans no longer exist that can sculpt certain types of shingles and slide them up in underneath there. We had thought about doing the steeple at the same time we did the roof. But money-wise, it did not work out or pan out. Well, like I say, with the rain now and the holes that have developed, we do have a parishioner that wants to foot the bill. We grabbed the money and come running up here and laid down the money for a building permit and got told we needed a variance. That's why we're here. One reason we cannot also, maybe put a shorter steeple on there is, this, and it's probably a poor excuse, but it's one I'm going to use anyway, is aesthetics. The bell housing that's there, that's open for the sound to come out, is just big enough for the bell to swing in. Should we try to narrow this down to put a more aesthetic looking unit or steeple on there, it ain't going to work. That's, again, why we're here. The new steeple that we're proposing is fiberglass. We anticipate that lasting much longer than most of us that are with that parish. At least that's what we hope. We do have to build a hip roof type structure on the top of the bell housing for this steeple to come down into and be anchored on. Another point that I want to bring to you is that this added 6-8 feet of elevation should not in any way inhibit aircraft traffic in that area. We are just below the bluff with the 3 various towers up there. If they manage to take our steeple off going northbound, they're going to be in one heck of a fix. We do come to you respectfully asking that this variance be granted so that we can, replace and have something looking decent. The one that's on there, I imagine you spotted or saw it today or whenever you were out there, needs some work paint-wise and a few other things. And some of these guys that throw the rope around the top and lower themselves down, they ain't around no more either. So, any questions?
Just a few general questions, I think, for the record then. There been a recent survey out there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you know where the lot lines are?
I think between a couple of us, we'd find them all right. There's a couple of stakes up there that stand up about 3-4 feet and are painted, I think, orange.
You're just going to put a new fiberglass one in the exact same location as the old steeple, is that correct?
That is correct.
Talk to any of the neighbors?
The one that's the closest is a parishioner. Ray, DJ Ray, behind us. The other one, they're aware of it. We'd also made the town board aware of the application filing, and they just advised us that you folks would let them know what happened.
Okay. Any other improvements planned at this time?
God, I hope not. The roof was 100,000 plus.
Yeah. Any portion of this going to be lighted or?
We intend to probably put a ground spot on it. Then would be controlled by a timer. But as far as mounting electrical stuff up that high, no.
The bell is going to stay where it is. You're not making a new bell tower or anything?
No,
or
nothing like that. There's like the louvered area that you saw from the portion that starts to taper above. That is what's going to be removed and replaced.
If an approval were granted, when you do construction?
Next spring now. We would be ordering it now simply because we've already checked with them. There is a 10 or so percent increase anticipated after January 1. We would order it immediately. They said they would honor our contract. We also have to work with Modern Pole Builders, who would be the contractor, and they have informed us now they can no longer schedule us till next spring. Also, with Wisconsin winters, they don't really want to mess around, even though it's only a 1 to 2 day at max project. But they can't operate cranes with winds in excess of so many miles per hour. The project would be completed, we hope, by Easter. And unfortunately, that's late next year, but sometime in April. But the project would not be done now due to, well, first of all, it's about an 8-week project from the time we notify the company in Alabama till they are ready to transport it to us.
Any other committee questions at this time? Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Correspondence?
There's no correspondence, but I did receive a phone call on October 12th from Larry Albright, the town board chair. And he said that the town board had met and discussed the steeple on the Lutheran church at their regular meeting, and they had no objections to exceeding the height limit.
unregistered staff comments?
I'd like to point out another thing that you're going to have to fix at your business meeting is we had listed this as being part of the CC or Community Commercial Zone, and we had the wrong parcel highlighted when we were looking at it. It's actually zoned RS10. Doesn't really affect any of the parameters of the variance, but we did have the wrong zoning on the application. So if you could correct that.
Okay.
And then I also must admit that we did not visit this property. We were kind of running out of time with all the other ones we had to visit. You had really good pictures, and it was a steeple going back in the same spot, so just a few feet taller. So we did not visit this one. This is the only one we did not visit. And it,
Anyone has questions then from the pictures that I put in the packet, I can point it out.
nope, and part of the reason we didn't visit it is you supplied us with really good pictures, so that about covers it.
Okay, and final one tonight. Michael and Julia Magers, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, have made an application for a variance in section 58-542, paragraph C, paragraph 2, and paragraph 4. 58-823, paragraph C, paragraph 2, of the Waushare County Zoning Code to construct a 36 by 48 two-story single-family dwelling on a crawl space, existing single-family home to be raised, coming to within 27 feet of the ordinary high water mark of Lake Morris on the northern, 35-foot setback required, and coming within 8.8 feet of a private road on the south, Emerald Lane, on a non-conforming lot, non-conforming due to lot width and square footage in the RS20 single-family residential zone within the shoreline area. Location Lot 15, Block D of Lutheran Retreat Association subdivision, being part of the southwest one quarter, the southeast one quarter, Section 16, Town of Mount Morris, Emerald Lake, Lake Morris, and connecting canal, N 3772 Emerald Lane. And you are?
Jesse Berg. I am the builder. I'm representing them tonight.
Okay. Anything further to add at this time?
No, just pretty much Terry did a site inspection and kind of set up some parameters, and so I drew the home according to what we tried to hit on the setbacks. It's a unique lot, like all of them, and try to do the best I could to meet the homeowner's needs.
Okay. Two general questions then. Has there been a recent survey out there?
Yes.
And do you know when?
Mr. Mo did it about a month ago, and then he professionally put all the stakes in a week ago.
So we are definite on where all the lot lines are?
100%.
Have you talked to the neighbors and the Lutheran Retreat Association about the new home?
I believe the neighbors have, or my homeowner has, and as far as I know, I have no opposition, but the neighbors kind of been feeling them out.
And you said this will be on a crawl space foundation?
Yes, that is correct.
Will the water table be a problem for constructing a foundation in that area?
It should not. We're going to try to hit existing grades and put it basically as is for the existing house.
So you're not going to do a lot of filling or anything there?
We're going to we don't want it, very little disturbance. So existing heights and everything for grade, we really don't want to really change much heights.
And what will be the finished height of the building?
I believe I'm about 32 feet, so I'm below the 35-foot restriction.
And how will you deal with stormwater runoff and potential erosion from the home?
We're going to definitely do gutters, and then as we move forward, we definitely have Tom out to look at the property.
Have you considered revegetating the shoreline there at all, or?
The shoreline right now it looks like to be in good condition, but if there's anything, I think the channel might need some work, but we would take suggestions.
Are you sure this construction will not interfere with the platted road or the holding tank that's there?
It should not. The existing holding tank, we did an inspection. We turned in the inspection report. The holding tank should be fine, and we will not get close to it, so we should not disturb it.
Will there be enough room for parking there?
The parking is a little tight. It's a little tight as is right now because it's a dead-end road, so it's unique to the structure, but basically the parking shall remain as is.
Any other improvements planned at this time?
No.
What will the total square foot of living area be in this new home?
I believe we were around 2,500 square feet. I'm sorry, 2,300 square feet.
Per floor?
Both floors total.
Both floors?
Yes.
You considered any other options of maybe cutting back the size of the home a little bit, or?
Basically, with the parameters that were given, we tried again trying to hit the needs of what the homeowners had. As they get older, they want to retire here, so they really wanted a bedroom on the first floor. So by the time we put the bedroom and the great room and everything in, it kind of evolved to the size that it is.
What are the hardships that would support this larger home on there?
The existing house that's there really is pretty much it's over the property line, so we want to take that back, or it's over the setback line, so it doesn't meet setbacks right now on the would be the east side. So we want to basically, so we really can't improve the property. And some of the bedrooms, you actually have to walk through a mechanical room to get to a bedroom on the house, and it's not in the best shape per se. From the outside it may look good, but on the inside, mechanicals, and there's really it needs attention.
Okay, and you're aware of what permits you're going to be needing for this?
Correct.
Will you be able to safely remove the old home, and are you aware of the procedures to do so?
Correct, yes. I've done several on the lake and in the area, so I know what I have to do, yes.
What do you plan on doing with the shed that's located on the property?
That would be removed.
That's actually on the road right away now?
Correct, yes, yes.
If an approval were granted, when would you start your construction?
Probably sometime in January or February. And that total square footage too, that's kind of including our garage area too. There's a garage attachment in that area as well.
Not big enough for a car, though?
Correct, right. That's why we're removing that storage shed and attaching it into the house.
Any other committee questions?
No, I was just going to ask him, he said 2,300 square feet, but the plan says 1,902.
There's going to be upstairs, there might be storage area, so I wanted to make sure I was covered, but it should be around that area.
It's not living space.
Not living space.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I should say it's actually over the one area of the house. It's with the 1,900. It's kind of a mechanical area, but I don't want to turn it in later and someone says it's square footage. It's actually just space.
Where's the mechanical room going to be? On first floor?
No, it's because we have no room in the first floor. It's going to be up in the attic.
In the bonus room area? No, it's all in
A little to the other side of it. There's to the right side. So there will be, when I submit, there will be a section that I have over there that it's not actually livable. So it depends on how you want to call it. 1,900 is actual the square footage, but I'm actually got to have space up there for mechanics.
over the laundry and garage area.
Correct. That is correct.
Any other committee questions?
Is this the second, part of the second floor? Or is there no part?
There's no second floor there.
Any correspondence?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we did receive a letter from the DNR, again addressed to me and kind of has the same little starting out and When he talks about the Majors property, he says, "The department does not believe unnecessary hardship has been demonstrated for this proposal, and thus believes the request should be denied. Further, the proposed project appears very large given the lot size and setback constraints. If the Board of Adjustment should find the request can be approved, the department requests that at least the following two conditions accompany any approval. Install and maintain vegetative shoreline buffers according to NRCS Standard 643A and Wisconsin Biological Technical Note Number 1 as much as possible, as found in Section 58-903, Parens N, Parens 5 of the Waushara County Zoning Code, along 70% of the canal side and 70% of the Lake Morris side of the property, to a depth that is 50% of the distance between the ordinary high water mark and the principal structure. This appears to be at least 13.5 to 16 feet deep. Support for this is in Section 58-903, Parens N, Parens 3, and 58-903, Parens N, Parens 3A. And install rain gardens or some other device to incorporate stormwater from the enlarged structure. Removal of the shed may be an additional appropriate condition. And thank you for the opportunity to provide comments. Please contact me if you have any questions. And that was signed by Michael Wenholtz, Department of Natural Resources, WENHOLZ. And on October 17th, we received a letter from the Secretary of the Lutheran Retreat Association, who had a cover letter that says he's been directed by the Board of Directors to contact you regarding the recent information they received regarding the variance request made by the Majors. And the letter says, while we understand the desire of the Majors to create a space for themselves that better suits their needs, we oppose this request. This is a non-conforming buildable lot of approximately 7,000 square feet. As such, it varies in configuration but is similar in size to the other lots of the subdivision that rest within the shoreline area. This lot has water on three sides. It is bounded on the west by a 3-foot strip between it and a canal, and on the south by a private road walking path of less than 50 feet in width bordering Emerald Lake owned by the Retreat. This means that the proposed structure is within several overlapping shoreline zones. These lots were initially sold for cabins with a footprint of approximately 600 to 700 square feet. Over the ensuing 70-plus years, this size has remained consistent, with many retaining their original footprint and with some additions bringing footprints to 800-plus feet. This results in footprints that cover 9% to 12% of the lot. This request calls for a footprint of 1,728 square feet. This more than twice the average footprint of adjacent cottages and results in the creation of a core structure which covers approximately 24% of the lot. Any porches, decks, sidewalks, or outbuildings would further reduce open space. Practically, this structure's size creates problems beyond the structure's encroachment. To name a few, these are parking. Having 48 feet of structure 10 feet from the lot line would leave only the 37-foot strip near the lake on the south for on-site parking. Number 2, holding tank location. Number 3, runoff control. Number 4, native vegetation and shoreline habitat. Number 5, visual impact. The road path is regularly used for leisure walks around Emerald Lake. Allowing a structure of this size on this lot would set a precedent that could have far-reaching impact on the subdivision and on the Mount Morris chain of lakes in general by creating a new standard for shoreline use. It is for these reasons that we oppose the granting of the variance. And again, that was from the Lutheran Retreat Association.
Who signed it?
Came from the Secretary K. David Lupardus, Lupardus.
First name was David?
Yep. Do I read that one again? On October 20th, we received a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Norbert Stahmer, Stahmer. In regard to described lot in the Lutheran Retreat, Mount Morris, copy enclosed. There are a number of reasons not to grant this variance, of which some are: the lot and site are not adequate, it is too close to the shoreline and road right-of-way. If for no other reason other than emergency vehicles, example, fire trucks, were needed, there is hardly room enough now, no turning room. Home of that size would not conform with present structures. You would be creating a precedence for other such requests in the future. As property owners, we are asking this request be denied, seeing more negative than positive happenings in that area. We are sorry we are unable to be present at the hearing, but hope our request will be highly considered. And again, that's Mr. and Mrs. Norbert Stahmer, S-T-A-H-M-E-R. On October 19th, we received a letter from David and Karen Sherwald, T-S-C-H-U-R-W-A-L-D. To the Waushara County Board of Adjustments, Ray Majors variance request. We own the neighboring property to the east of Mike and Julie Majors. We purchased this property in 2008 to rehab and flip. We very quickly realized this was a very unique place, and the odds that we would sell became very slim. We applied for a variance to exceed the 50% rule for a nonconforming structure. First and foremost on our mind, while designing the new version of the existing home, was to make it fit with its surroundings, to stay on the footprint of the existing home and not compromise this rare setting. We consulted with Zoning and Land Conservation, the Lutheran Retreat Association, and showed our plan to our neighbors, received great input, and the rest is history. We became aware of the Majors variance request by reading it in the Waushara Argus, not by their personal presentation of their plans. Although we respect and support the Majors' rights and desires to make improvements to their property, we cannot support their variance request. They have a very small lot and are requesting to place a large structure on it that does not match the lot and available area. If this variance is granted, it will set a precedent that potentially could have a very negative impact on the Lutheran Retreat subdivision and the Mount Morris Lakes chain. The variance application also does not address logical questions such as, how will excavation affect the trees located between us? With the high water table, how far out of the ground will the foundation be? How much fill will have to be brought in around it? I could fill a page full of these types of questions. In closing, as you drove down Emerald Lane for your on-site visit to the Majors, I am sure you noticed how the cottages all fit so well into their surroundings and what a unique spot it truly is. Thank you for considering our concerns. We oppose the granting of this variance. David and Karen Sherwald. On October 17th, we received a letter from Susan and Elmer Hamann, H-A-M-A-N-N. As property owners 2 lots east, we understand the desire of the Majors to create a space for themselves that better suits their needs. However, we oppose this request. This is a non-conforming buildable lot of approximately 7,000 square feet. As such, it varies in configuration but is similar in size to the other lots of the subdivision that rest within the shoreline area. This lot has water on 3 sides. In addition to the lake on the east, it is bounded on the west by a 3-foot strip between it and a channel, and on the south by a private road walking path of less than 50 feet in width bordering Emerald Lake. This means that the proposed structure is within several overlapping shoreline zones with an impact on 2 lakes. These lots were initially sold for cabins with a footprint of approximately 600 to 700 square feet. Over the ensuing 70 years, this size has remained consistent, with many retaining their original footprint and with some small additions bringing footprints to 800 plus feet. This results in footprints that cover 9 to 12% of the lot. This request calls for a 36 by 48 or 728 square foot foundation with 2 stories for a total of 3,456 square feet. This is more than twice the average footprint of adjacent cottages and results in the creation of a core structure which covers approximately 24% of the lot. Any porches, decks, sidewalks, or outbuildings would further reduce open space. This building is simply too large for the lot and the neighborhood. Practically, the structure's size creates problems beyond the structure's encroachments. To name a few, these are parking. Having 48 feet, the building 9 feet from the lot line would leave only the 37-foot strip near the channel on the west for on-site parking. Holding tank location, runoff control, native vegetation and shoreline habitat, plantings and preservation, visual impact. The road path is regularly used for leisure walks around Emerald Lake, and potential additional traffic on the private road path where children cross on the way to Emerald Lake. Allowing a structure of this size on this lot would set a precedent that could have far-reaching impact on the subdivision and on the Mount Morris chain of lakes in general by creating a new standard for shoreline use, which would be double that of similarly situated properties. It is for these reasons that we oppose the granting of this variance. And that's signed Susan and Elmer Hamann. And
What was the last name again, please?
Hamann. Note, the timing of this request limits input since most cottage owners have left for the season. There have been no personal discussions. And that's it for correspondence.
No one registered to speak. Staff comments?
When the board visited the property, they noted that the existing dwelling and shed are both non-conforming structures, and the vegetation along the shoreline does appear to be both sparse and non-native. This variance is actually somewhat similar to the Pius one, one of the previous ones. We have a request to build a new home on a non-conforming lot where it's going to be difficult to meet all the setbacks. So while the lot is unique and there appears to be some difficulties when figuring out how to place a new home, it again comes down to the size and positioning of that home. Is the request before the board reasonable given all the factors in play on this particular parcel? Does it fit in with the neighboring properties? Is there a potential to harm the water resources? They are on 3 sides. Are there other alternatives that will better fit this parcel? Will this interfere with the private road owned by the Lutheran Retreat Association? These are about a few of the difficult questions the board must answer. And one other thing I'd like to point out, because we haven't exactly talked about this before either, is one of the statutory requirements is that the board grant a minimal relaxation of the code. That's all that's allowed by statutes. So this request is for a rather large home on a small parcel. And it does appear that there may be some other options for construction of a new home that would better meet setbacks and protect the neighbors in the lakes. But the board needs to decide. That's it.
Okay, does the applicant have anything in rebuttal?
Basically, we should just look at the square footage on the first floor. I don't know if that, you know what I mean, because the second floor, there's always potential, so it sounds worse than what it is. Does that make sense? I mean, when you look at the first floor square footage versus as a total. And the other thing is, with that lot, the way it is, regardless on what house gets built on it, or even now, with the fire department or with the access, there is no way, regardless what's there, it's pretty much a dead-end road. There is foot traffic, but there really isn't any option right now for anybody to turn around. So even with the parking, they were still going to park as they are parking now. It's pretty much in the grass. And with someone had a question about disturbance to the neighbor side. The existing house, it doesn't meet the setbacks, but we tried to hold the 15 feet that was suggested to us to the east side. Basically tried to hit all the setbacks that were suggested to us. So it's not like when they were suggested, to get what I had to do, I took to everything that I needed, for what they wanted to, so that's why we're here, obviously. But with disturbing the neighbor's yard or any trees or anything, we definitely would not be a concern to us. I mean, we're going to make sure that everything's protected. So.
Okay. Thank you. That closes the public hearing for the Board of Adjustments.